So our final speaker today is a gentleman called Milan Samani. He has acted as a mentor to Tim and I for the last 3 years. And he's actually one of the reasons that Tim and I met at one of his programs called the Entrepreneur Lab. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Milan to come up and share his story and some thoughts with you. Milan Samani, everyone.
David, Tim, thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure to be here. I'll tell you a little bit about who I am and what we do. David mentioned the Entrepreneur Lab, and then I'll take you through 3 things that I thought might be helpful for you all. 3 ways that we think you can make social impact profitable. So my name is Milan Samani. I run the Entrepreneur Lab. What is the Entrepreneur Lab? Official description: it's a corporate innovation accelerator to help large companies develop profitable solutions to social issues. More plain-spoken version of that: if you work for a big company and you have an idea that can make lots of money for the company and can make the world better through innovation, the Entrepreneur Lab tries to help you make that happen. We had very humble beginnings in 2013, but the Entrepreneur Lab is now relatively well established. We're used by 20 of the Fortune 100 companies, most strategically by Barclays, Disney, Philips, and one of the large auto companies as well. We have relationships with 5 business schools all over the world. We run labs all over the world. Cornell in the US, University of Michigan, Sai Business School here in the UK, INSEAD in Singapore. We've run labs in Mumbai and Singapore. We've run 16 cohorts of the Entrepreneur Lab to date. We have incubated over 100 entrepreneurial ventures, including Tim and David back in 2014, and Carl from Barclays, who's in the current cohort right now. We have incubated 100 of these ventures. Many of them have been spectacular failures, but some have done quite well. We've seen about 16 of them get funded. 4 are currently in market, generating over 100 million of revenue for their corporations, which is a wonderful situation that many of you will find yourselves in. If you work for a large company and you're in the business of innovation, you either go big or you have to go home. If it's not a multi-million-pound opportunity, it's nothing at all. So let me tell you a little bit about how the Entrepreneur Lab works and how it came to be before I go into the 3 tips that we've learned from running it. How did it come to be? It all began with a dinner conversation in early 2012. I had left my job as a chartered accountant and then worked later in corporate finance. And I was having dinner with my wife, who works at DFID, the UK Department for International Development, and my friend Dee, who works at Accenture in the team that Gib used to run. And we were talking, in fact, they were talking, I was just listening, about this idea of social issues being business opportunities in disguise. Around that time, Michael Porter had written this article called Creating Shared Value. They were discussing it. I was listening quietly. And they were talking about this compelling future that the likes of Michael Porter and even Gib, who at the time we thought was a real visionary and still do, was talking about this compelling future where large corporations see social problems as opportunities for innovation. And they were saying that, this is a really compelling future and we need more brilliant ideas to come out of the large companies of the world to make that future a reality. And the light bulb that went off in my mind is I said that in my experience, brilliant ideas come from brilliant people. And I don't think that we're born brilliant. I think we become so through our life experiences. It's when we take risks and face challenges and step outside of our comfort zones, building things that we believe in, that we realize we can do things that we never thought were possible. Look, if you work in a large company, we all want to do well. I want to do well. I want to earn good money, bonus, promotion, all those things. But what I had observed is that when people do work that they care about, that they think is significant and meaningful and worthwhile, all the things that I've heard some of the speakers today talk about, that we stretch outside of our comfort zones. We face challenges, we take risks, and we realize that we can do things that we never thought were possible. So I blurted out over the dinner table, what if? I love that slide that one of the speakers gave. What if we could create a program where we take people from big companies who've got early stage ideas which can make money and do good in some way, and take them away to a business school for 3 days. But let's not have any professors in the room. Let's instead have a faculty of practitioners, people who have themselves taken significant innovations to scale inside a large corporation, and let them tell the truth about how they did it. Let them get up there and say, I now run a $100 million business line within Vodafone, but when I first came up with my idea, everyone told me I was wasting my time and wasting their time. And these are the strategies and tactics and mindsets that I used to get traction from my idea, and let's inspire everyone, and let's open their eyes to the challenges of driving innovation inside a large corporation. And then after 3 days, let's send everyone back to their day jobs, but ask them to give 10% of their time over 3 months, and provide them with mentors, subject matter experts, Accenture consultants, to help them develop their idea. And at the end of 3 months, in the same way that a startup pitches to a venture capitalist, these entrepreneurs will pitch to their own C-suite. And at that point, the C-suite would say, go or no go. If it's a go, that venture will get funded, hopefully ultimately run and taken to market inside the company. If it's a no-go, then okay, no worries, but at least we've taken a group of people who know what it means to build something from nothing, driven by a sense of purpose. My wife and my friend looked at me fairly blankly and said, nice idea, and we carried on with the conversation, as we've heard with many of the speakers today. For me, it was an idea that wouldn't let me go. It took 18 months, frankly, about 25 miracles that all had to happen in the right order. We managed to pull off the first lab with Gibbs' help and the support of Accenture in October 2013, and we had a wonderful outcome with Barclays in that first lab, and we really scaled it from there. So, what I want to talk to you about today, 3 ways to make social impact profitable. If you are in the business of trying to find ways to make the world better through business, you have to understand business. And business is about profit. And profit is made up of only 2 things: revenue and cost. So if you want to drive business, you have to make profit. And if you want to make profit, you either have to reduce cost or increase revenue. You can do it in a roundabout way. You can enhance employee engagement, et cetera, but ultimately, it has to reduce cost or increase revenue. Now, if, say, you go down the reducing cost route, many sustainability initiatives, environmental initiatives are around that. We can drive sustainable uses of resources and lower cost. Awesome. If you can do that, you should absolutely do it. Recognize, however, there is a limit to how much cost you can take out of a business. And also, companies are quite motivated already to do things cheaply. What we focus on in the Entrepreneur Lab is increasing revenue. Because if you can increase revenue, that has got infinite scalability. If you want to increase revenue, you've got to sell something. You've got to find a product which someone wants to buy and sell it. Remember, that's what a company does. A company is not a vehicle to solve complex social issues. Frankly, government and the social sector is far more efficient at addressing complex social issues than a company. A company is good at selling stuff that people want. So whatever social issue that you are interested in, you have to ask yourself this first question. Can that social issue be translated into giving a customer a product? And the first question you've got to ask is, what does a customer want that they are not currently getting? The second question that you've got to ask yourself is why? If there is something that a customer wants that they are not currently getting, what is the reason for that? Why can they not have what they want in the way they want it, at the price they want to pay? You've got to think deeply about this. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes research. Innovation is seeing things others don't and finding ways to make them happen. You, I imagine, have heard a lot today about making things happen, the hustle of being an entrepreneur. But I want to talk to you about how do you become someone that sees something others don't. The way to do it is you have to ask the right questions and stay with those questions long enough until the right answer reveals itself. And the last of the 3 questions to ask yourself is, how can your company, the first is, what does the customer want that they're not currently getting? Question 2, why can they not have what they want in the way they want it at the price they want to pay? And then lastly, therefore, what are you going to do about it? How can your company uniquely give a customer what they want at the price they want to pay? How is it your company's scale? Is it its assets? Is it its resources? Is it its expertise? Is it its brand? How are you going to make that happen? That's what innovation really is. It's giving the customer something that they cannot have, whatever that is for you. Education, water, mobility, energy, whatever it is that you are passionate about. That's what it is. You've got to see why they can't have it and find a way to give it to them profitably. That's what it is to see things others don't and find a way to give it to them in a profitable way. So let me share with you one story which brings those 3 questions to life. We're running cohort, God, I've forgotten what number we're on right now. We're on cohort, I think, 11 of the Entrepreneur Lab right now. Disney are on it. They had their demo day pitching to the C-suite on Thursday. So we've got 4 out of those 7 ventures funded. We've got better since the days when Tim and David did it. So we've got 4 out of 7 Disney ventures funded. And we've got a large auto company, because given that it's being recorded, I can't share their name. We have their demo day on Monday, day after tomorrow. It's one of the 3 large German car companies. And on this particular cohort of the lab, we've got Lee. Lee looks after corporate fleets of cars. And what the social issue that he's really interested in is sustainable energy, electric cars in his world. So the first question is, what does the customer want that they're not currently getting? Well, his customer are large corporate fleets. And what do they want? They want lower costs. They want cheaper cars. Why can they not have electric cars at the price they want to pay? Well, electric cars are expensive. More expensive than petrol or diesel cars, at least today. And also the charging infrastructure isn't there. But why is the charging infrastructure not there? It's not because it's too expensive. It's actually because the national grid can't really cope. National grid is at about 95% capacity. If you put a whole bunch of electric cars on the grid, the national grid is not going to be able to provide the energy that they need. In fact, there are times today when, we don't know this, or it's not common knowledge, when demand outstrips supply of electricity. There are times when you'll plug your phone in and it was going to charge more slowly than it otherwise would. We may not notice that, but it's true. And energy companies spend £850 million a year, including some whacking great big fines from the national grid, trying to match demand outstripping supply. So that's why they can't have all these electric cars, and that's why these electric cars and the charging infrastructure is both expensive and cannot happen. So what did Leo do? Leo asked himself that 3rd question. How can your company uniquely give the customer what they want at a price they want to pay? So there's some emerging technology called vehicle-to-grid. Vehicle-to-grid is about electric cars that don't just take electricity from the grid, they can also put it back into the grid. The technology is very new. There are a lot of fairly small companies headed by scientists who are developing it, but the technology does exist today. Lee's company has got scale and has got large corporate clients. And he said, what if? What if we could go to a client like O2 and say, we'll sell you 100 electric vehicles rather than diesel cars, and we'll make them cheaper than diesel cars. And we'll install the charging infrastructure for you in your car park. We'll track usage patterns of those cars, and we'll ensure that all your drivers have got just enough energy that they need, electricity in the battery, for whenever they need it. They're never going to run out. But the catch is, there'll be times of the day when that car is parked in the car park that we'll take electricity out of the car, and we will sell it back to the national grid, to the power companies. And we'll make money off selling that energy. This big car company will make money off selling that energy, and that's the way that we can give you an electric car cheaper than a diesel car. What's the result? Leo's company makes money from the energy. His client gets a cheaper car. and Leo's desire to make social impact in the world moves one step closer to being realized, we get more electric cars on the road. Now, for the car company, this is a new line of business. They're not just selling cars, they're selling energy. We ran the financial model. It's worth about £800 per car per year, selling this energy. It's a whole new line of business. Now, Lee's car company sells 2 million cars a year. It's a £1.6 billion opportunity. That's the power of a large corporation. Go big or you go home. So Lee's got demo day on Monday, pitching to the CEO. He's already lined up the pilot. I will bet all the money in my pockets we're going to get that one funded. Why? Because he innovated. He asked the right questions. He stayed with those questions until he found compelling answers. He saw something that others didn't. He found a way to make it happen. You can too. And it begins with these 3 questions. Thanks very much.